it struck me like real hard, like, because I've heard the storyline of people feeling like they're caged and feeling you're not expanding, you're not growing. We all have that, I think, common feeling. I don't think anybody is just above that. Mm-hmm. But the way she spun it with the gratefulness and how that contrasts, like you should be grateful, but wait a second. No, I want to expand and grow and be wild.
I want to go hunt.
No, just be grateful. Well, wait.
Yeah.
Welcome to Confessions of a Financial Advisor, the antidote to conventional financial wisdom. My name is Al, and I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. This podcast will explore the emotional and psychological factors that affect our behaviors. All of the other financial podcasts out there will talk about the numbers and the math. We will confront the stories that we all fuse with that ultimately set the course for our lives. I am not looking for new clients and have no intention on running for any kind of office. I'm going to tell you like it is and call out all the commonplace BS. Now, let's get into Confessions of a Financial Advisor. All right, Diane, we are on episode 20 and we're pulling an audible today, and we're not going with Nothing to Lose and the Danger of Success.
We're going rogue today.
We're going rogue, off-road. And we decided to go with, we're going to call this one Cheetah.
Yeah.
And it's based on a book. Well, it's the prologue of a book that you recommended to me and an author that you got me into.
And then you read it faster than I am. Like, I'm still in the middle of it and you're done.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I listen to it on Audible. So I just literally have it in my ears as I'm walking throughout the day, you know. So I think you get through a book a lot faster just by listening to it. So
the book is called Untamed, and the author is Glennon Doyle.
Glennon Doyle, right. Her first book was, or her most famous book is Love Warrior, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And so this book's called Untamed. And so, yeah, I'm running one morning and I'm listening to this book. And so the prologue's, it's called Cheetah. And basically, in a nutshell, it's a comparison of, it's talking about how there's this cheetah at a zoo, and it's talking about how it's caged, and it's basically grown up with a Labrador and basically thinks it's a Labrador and is trained as a Labrador retriever trained. And
to be cute and cuddly and
right. And it's just, it's only function every day is they have this Jeep with like this pink bunny that's attached dirty pink bunny attached to the back of it. And then the Jeep takes off and the Labrador first chases after it. And then once the Labrador is done doing that, then they pull out the cheetah.
Yep.
And so it goes on, and it's just a comparison of how, as people, as humans, she says women, we say humans.
We say human, yeah.
And
men and women.
Because I completely related to the story. We all live in these kinds of cages. And so when she's talking about looking at the cheetah, has a conversation at the end with the cheetah, which this is the part that really kind of brought it home. She's having a conversation, like talking to the cheetah, and the cheetah's looking around, and the cheetah's like, there's something wrong in my life. Like something's off.
There's something missing.
And I have this like dream, this kind of imagination of being out in the wild and hunting and killing and sleeping under an ink black sky and like just being wild. And then it turns, and this is like the cheetah talking. And the cheetah looks back at the bars and looks back at the zoo and back at, his caretakers and says, well, I do have it pretty good. I should be grateful for what I have.
What dangerous words. I should be grateful.
Yeah, I should be grateful. But we always think that those words are so important, right? Like in one context, you're like, well, if you're grateful, then that's what, happiness comes from being grateful for the things that you have.
Right.
And so that's why, like, these weird dichotomies, when I think of that and I think of it in the context of the story, I was like, I had a tough time having my mind like come to some conclusion with that. I'm like, wait a second, I thought being grateful was good. But in this context, it's not.
No.
Now you're in your cage, you're in your prison, you're in your jail. And so the whole quote or the whole prologue ends with the cheetah saying, am I crazy? Like, am I completely crazy? I should be grateful for what I have. Look at what I have.
Yeah.
And then, Glennon Doyle says, no, you're not crazy. You're a goddamn cheetah.
Yeah.
And so just kind of, yeah. So then, of course, it brings me to that quote by Thoreau. Most men live lives of quiet desperation.
A lot of men do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Which
common.
Is sad. It's very sad. And a lot of women do too.
Yeah. It's like, we're able to tolerate a chronic level of pain, a chronic kind of
disease.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're unwilling to be wild, right? We're unwilling. We've lost.
Yeah.
We were in these unfulfilling jobs or family situations.
Relationships. It's like, it's good enough. It's like, well, hold on. Like, I'm not interested in fine.
Fine. That's the worst word. Fine. I'm fine.
That's an awful word.
I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine.
Fine.
Ugh. Yeah. It's just like this unshakable restlessness and like this feeling that like there's something off with your life. Mm-hmm. Like I'm on this treadmill to nowhere.
I feel like I have more potential than I'm expressing or allowing myself to express.
Yeah. And my whole life is just like, a repetitive routine,
like
just
vanilla,
kind of
bland, like good
bland. Ugh. God. Yeah. But this is the challenge. So like, what do you do with that? Like, in your case, you're a writer, so you become a writer. You go from a real estate agent to a writer.
Well, so when I actively stepped into considering what dating would look like post-divorce, I've always been a writer. I've just not been willing to admit. Like, I can't not write. I mean, writing is therapy for me. But I denied it for almost 40 years of my life until I opened myself up to considering dating. And then I was like, well, look at that. This career that I've been in, real estate, for 15 years, is not actually a passion project of mine.
Yeah.
Writing is.
And how do you bridge the gap between calling something a hobby and then morphing that into something that generates money, is a profession? That's
right. It's a career.
Yeah.
I had no idea there were ghostwriters all over the planet. There are people ghostwriting every day. Even when it comes to things like music, song lyrics, people ghostwrite for each other all the time. Mm-hmm. So just because someone is a great singer doesn't mean they're a great song lyricist.
Yes.
And it's playing to your strengths. Where are your strengths? Mine lies with words.
Yeah.
I enjoy showing houses. I like looking at houses. I find it entertaining. It's not a passion of mine. Playing with words is.
Yeah. How do you take it from, like you said, you say this a lot about it, why can't your passions and hobbies be, the center of your life?
Right.
Why do they have to be these
on the periphery?
Yeah. Just sort of.
Well, because we were taught as children, I think, at least this was my experience, that, hobbies are just for fun.
Yeah.
They can't be career. I lived my life that way for almost 40 years. And then as soon as I opened up to stepping into embracing what I'm really passionate about, all of these realizations, I had no idea there was such a strong literary community in Charlotte. It was it was there all the time. I just wasn't ready to actually recognize it.
One of the fears I have with trying to make things that I love into something that's, income generating or, more of the center of my life is that I don't want to ruin them. I don't want to get sick of them or have pressure on them to be something that at first, for me, playing drums, music, now writing and doing this podcast, I enjoy doing it. It's fun. It's an outlet. It's expressive.
It's healing.
But if you have to do it 8 hours a day, every day, what does it become?
But who wrote those
the
rules?
8 hours? Exactly.
Who wrote the rules?
Damn freaking movie, 9 to 5. That's what it was.
I've had issues with this too, deep issues with this. When you take a step back, it's wait, who wrote the fucking rule book? Why can't we write a new one?
Yeah.
That's part of what I think we're doing right now in our culture in the United States anyways. This this rule book hasn't been working for us, men or women. Like, you know what? How about we throw it out and write a new one?
Yeah. And I was listening to something today that was talking about how this work from home idea is literally going to take hold now because we were forced into it, right?
Uh-huh.
And this guy was talking about, this is on the Sam Harris podcast, and he was talking about how you could be so much more productive working from home. There's so much wasted time like in an office.
Yeah.
Not only just the commuting alone, of course, that's non-productive time, but like just the little interactions, the toggling between things. If you can allow people to work from home, and he has like these 5 different levels, and like level 5 is like literally you're just getting so much more done and you have more free time. And it's, in his mind, it's like the perfection of, you never really attain exactly that, but this level 5 kind of working from home dynamic.
Well, the whole gig economy is huge and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, he says the 9 to 5 thing, or like the idea that you have to be in an office, came from like the Industrial Revolution, where we had like factories.
Right.
And if you weren't in the factory, then you're not working. It's like, and we just completely just stayed in that train of thought.
Yeah, but the whole freelance, and even like in writing my and self-publishing my first memoir, I've hired people. People have worked on my first memoir that I have never physically met in person. Some I've never even had a phone conversation with.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of technology, I think. And that's what I think a lot of people are coming. I can't tell you how many like things on Instagram I've seen about people on Zoom calls. I'm like, dude, we've been doing this. Where you been? Like,
yeah.
having these remote conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And perfect place to put a shout out to Virginia Elder, who produces this podcast.
Yes. Yes.
I found her on Upwork.
Yeah.
She's in Texas.
Yeah.
We're in Charlotte. She's in Texas.
Yeah. She's awesome.
She's amazing. I mean, she just takes care of everything. It's like, we do this, we do our recording, I shoot it off to her, she puts it all together.
She's highly detail oriented, so meticulous. She's great. On it. Yep.
So yeah, Virginia Elder, if you ever want somebody, no, I shouldn't be announcing this. I want her to myself. I don't want to share. But you're right. Like, so think about how many jobs that you need a computer, you need a phone.
Right.
I mean, literally you can do your job from anywhere.
Yeah.
Any hotel,
Well, and that's part of what I'm so in love with about writing is it's completely location independent.
Yes.
Real estate is sort of, but you're still tied physically to being with people.
Yes.
And that's a part that I actually really do enjoy is the people aspect of it. But the writing is just the expansiveness of that. Like I could literally run away to Asheville and just go hide somewhere in the mountains and write. And I could work from anywhere. Yeah. I could work from anywhere.
You could rent a place for 2 months and just live somewhere else.
And it's intoxicating. It's like, oh, imagine the possibilities.
Totally.
Like I was in New Orleans. I was in Asheville recently. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked about, to take this back to the Cheetah story, we've talked about, you and I have different perspectives, but men and women at some point in their lives end up hitting the same brick wall. We just are coming at it from different directions. Like women are indoctrinated as children still in our culture to sit down and shut up, to stay small, to not outshine anybody around us. And men are told boys don't cry.
Yeah.
And then we get to a certain point in life where some of us end up picking our heads up like, this isn't working for me, you know?
Yeah, we end up at the same place. Like women come from it. Yeah, like you said, being small, be
the helper, take care of everybody else. What the fuck?
Right.
Like, none of us are told to take care of ourselves first. Like we're not taught this.
Yes.
We're told to be the caregiver and the nurturer and the one being last, basically, not even on our own list of people to nurture and support. And men are told to not feel emotion or not acknowledge emotion and to be the producer and the productive.
Stuff it down at all costs. Do not show this to the public.
Right.
I mean, I was literally told that as a kid in no uncertain words. Like my parents basically said that, like, you don't show emotion. You just don't do it. Not in public. You don't do that. And so this quote that I ran across, which is a beautiful yet very sad quote that I think applies to a lot of men, in our society.
You find good quotes too. I love that.
It puts it in perspective for me. There have been so many times I have seen a man wanting to weep, but instead beat his heart until it was unconscious. Yeah. So like the idea is just like stuff it down at all costs, stuff it down.
Don't feel it.
Think about like, that's the mortal sin. So that's like the worst sin is to like, for a man.
Is having emotions.
Right. It's having emotions or expressing emotions. Well, no, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's the shame of even having them, because I think that's what men feel.
Yeah.
It's not even, we've already like closed off. So we're not showing it to anybody, but if we feel it inside, we're like, fucking stuff it down. So what's the contrast? Society's telling you to be small, that it's about your appearance.
Sit down and shut up.
You know, young is, well, I guess.
To not stand out, to not own your brilliance, to not make other people feel bad. Like I bought into it. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. Like I was the good girl.
Yeah.
The achiever. Check the marks, get the good grades, be the helper, be little mom.
And then what happens? So you turn 40, right?
36.
36. Like there's some sort of turning point here, right? And where you're like, this is not working for me.
This is not what I want for my life. Like,
yeah.
No, who's taking care of me? No one.
Right.
If we're not taking care of ourselves, what are we waiting for? Who are we waiting for?
Yeah. And it seems to be, it happens like at the same time period for many people. Like, well, being you in particular, I mean, mid 30s, early 40s is where you start to realize you're like, I'm halfway through my shit here, you know, or close to it.
Right.
I gotta like, and it's not really, I'm living in this paradigm that's not working.
Right.
But again, it loops back to like the 9 to 5. It's like you're just living in these old paradigms.
Stories. They're just stories.
They're just stories.
But we believe them. We buy into them as kids and we adopt them as truth. And then we hit a certain point in the middle of life. And we're like, wait a minute.
So it's like,
this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel good to be constantly worried about everybody else's well-being.
Yeah. Like the wild is beaten out of you, basically.
Yeah.
So like that cheetah story, basically, you know, the cheetah grew up with a Labrador retriever and was trained in
as the moral model
inside the confines of a zoo and did the same thing every day.
To chase
and like
this is pink bunnies.
Yeah. And that's
be grateful for what you have. We just threw you a steak on the dirt floor.
Right.
Like,
get used to those. Yeah. You better love those bars, right? Yeah. Be grateful for those bars. They're protecting you, right?
Look how comfortable you are. It's like, yeah, but comfort isn't where creativity lies. It's not where passion lies.
But there is a place for being grateful, right? So, I mean, there is a place.
I think there's a place for appreciation. Like I can appreciate my bed. I can appreciate that I have a safe home. I can appreciate my car. Like I can appreciate things, but it doesn't mean that I don't want to keep reaching for more. Yeah. If that makes sense. And growing and expanding and learning.
Well, again, it's the growth, the progress, right?
Progress, not perfection.
Yes.
Recovering perfection. It's like, who are you? I don't recognize you anymore.
Not perfection. Yeah.
Well, we talked about that. It's the journey. It's not the destination. It's about the experience, not reaching. It's not about the
goal. It's not the end goal. It's the process, right? I always think about falling in love with the process, you know? Like the best people at anything are in process. Like I always think of, speaking of writers, like a Stephen King.
Yeah.
I'd listened to like a little blurb about him that for, I don't know, the last 30 years, he's been writing, you know, from like 6 a.m. to like 1 p.m. I forgot the actual hours, but he has this routine that he's done for 30 years. And I remember reading about it and people were like making comments like, well, that's because he's Stephen King and he's a famous author and he's allowed to do that because he doesn't have to work a regular job. I'm like, well, maybe he doesn't work a regular job. Maybe it's the reverse. Maybe like maybe
it's the opposite.
Yeah. Go figure, right? Yeah. Like the cart before the horse, kind of like, wait a second.
The opposite of what we've been taught by our society.
Did the routine create success, or because he had success, he was allowed to do the routine? I think it's the routine.
Practice.
I mean, think of anybody that's great at anything. practice, consistency, process.
Well, with even playing the drums.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could do it once a week and you'll get a little bit better. But if you do it,
you could do it 12 hours a day. I don't know. That doesn't feel like a fun way to live.
Unsustainable, right? Yeah.
Well, that's a critical word. Yeah. Sustainability.
Circle it back to being the little kids that, now we've been taught, you were taught to be small. I was taught to stuff my emotions. It just goes to show you how impressionable we are as kids and how you hold on to that your entire life. I know we're in our 40s.
It's like a tape running in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's impacting our adulthood. It's like whose story? This is one of my favorite questions ever. Whose story is this?
Mm-hmm. Whose story is it?
Yeah.
And maybe we have unreasonable expectations, but I don't think you 100% get over these stories. They're always in the background. You can catch them, and I think you could work with them.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's kind of like the idea, we talk about grief a lot. I think we have this idea that you overcome grief. I'm done. God. I finally got to this moment of acceptance and now grief is over. I'm like, that's bullshit.
I can personally attest to that.
Yeah, likewise, I can too.
Yeah, I literally spent we're recording this in early April. I spent the first half of March just crying, just feeling emotion. And I was like, where did this come from? I thought I was beyond this. I thought I was good. I thought I was done. That I had done it.
Yeah.
And then it hit me and I'm just like, oh my God, all of the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the collective grief happened. And that was the second half of March. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not like an intellectual exercise that you can just get rid of it.
You can't check the box.
In you, right? It's there. It comes up. It's.
I was waiting. I was at a park not long ago, waiting for some friends, and I can feel other people's energy, and so I'm very aware of other people around me, having been assaulted a year ago. And some guy started walking toward me, and I literally was like, I want to remove myself. I want distance between you and me. I don't want you near me. I want other people between us. And it's just interesting, I still get triggered.
Yes.
In unexpected ways by something that happened more than a year ago.
Well, it's a form of PTSD. It's basically you were assaulted.
Yes.
You were assaulted. Yeah. It's like being in a war and people are shooting at you. How are you supposed to react to that? So you can just walk through life after that, whistling Dixie and not looking over your shoulder.
Everything's fine. It's all rainbows and butterflies. No, it's not. Nope. There's a violent undercurrent to the city where you and I both live. That it's interesting because I think did we talk about this? That I didn't recognize how deep the violent energy was until I was in the mountains recently.
You did mention that.
And came back to Charlotte. I'm in,
and I think
the city limits for 3 minutes. I'm driving this rental car and I'm 3 minutes back in Charlotte and I'm wanting to literally scream at other drivers.
Yeah. And
I was like, where is this rage coming from?
It feels like a little bit at a fever pitch kind of, you just whoa, wait, it's way intense. It's, it's a higher frequency, but there's a higher idling.
Yeah.
You're idling at a higher level here where you go to the mountains, it's just slower.
Yeah. Hypervigilance.
Chill.
It's just chill. I was I feel so peaceful. I was walking around outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I come back to Charlotte and I want to rage at all the other drivers on the road. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
I just had a lovely 2 days.
So circling it back to, the Cheetah story, it was just, it struck me real hard. Because I've heard the storyline of people feeling like they're caged and feeling you're not expanding, you're not growing. We all have that, I think, common feeling. I don't think anybody is just above that. But the way she spun it with the gratefulness and how that contrast, you should be grateful. But wait a second. No, I want to expand and grow and be wild.
I want to go hunt.
Oh, no, just be grateful. Well, wait.
Yeah.
I always thought grateful was good. I was trying to wrap my head around and come to some sort of logical conclusion to how could I be grateful and be expanding at the same time? So be grateful for what you have, but it's also okay to progress and grow. And I think and again, ongoing process, right? It's one of those things you're going to be toggling between the two. I don't think one's better than the other. I think they're both important.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of her story, it really like drove it home for me, where I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
We all have some sort of like cages that were created when we were kids.
Ways in which we are allowing ourselves to be tamed.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like no disparity to my parents. I mean, they knew what they knew. They did
the best that they could.
Yeah. Who the fuck? I mean, I can't even imagine what their parents did to them. You know, it's like, I think,
the trauma that they inflicted on them. Oh, it's a whole lot. It's a whole history of trauma. We've all been traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ancestral crap.
Yeah. And then you hit like, but the thing is with my parents, like they hit like their 40s and 50s, like they weren't having conversations like we're having. They weren't talking through their shit. They were just like, freaking push that thing down. Even my mom had more of like that. I mean, my mom and my dad both had that stuff your emotion kind of thing. You know, I think women today are more free to show their emotions, definitely in comparison to men publicly.
Yeah,
you know,
I would agree.
But I think that's got to change. I mean, that's got to change. I don't have a son. I couldn't imagine, you know, having a son and just seeing what I sometimes see, you know, like somebody like a parent yelling at their kid on the football field, you know, or like that kind of thing, or like, you know, get up, you know.
Yeah.
Just the whole idea that like, you know, you have to prove something and you have to be a man and yeah.
Yeah. I have several nephews and it's like, wow. I mean, I feel for my siblings raising them. I'm like, fun with that task because.
Yeah.
And I have several nephews that are highly sensitive, highly sensitive and very introverted. And I'm like, okay.
Because I think the thing is, I mean, yeah, we have different body parts, but we have the same freaking insides. I mean, it's like our insides are the same. Like, but we try to make it seem like we're not. It's like, you know, like, no, you're not the same. You're a man and you're a woman and you feel two different things.
Right. We focus on the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like we're people at the core, right? We have
we're humans.
We all have emotions.
It's humanity.
It's not like men have no emotions, women have all the emotions. Like, no, we all have them.
I mean, there are men that don't have any emotions that terrify me because they're psychopaths.
Sociopaths. Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of scary. Women too.
I'll be in the next room.
Yeah, women too.
And women can have, you know, achievement and goals and productivity. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you integrate and marry and blend both sides? Like we each have masculine and feminine energy within us.
Yes.
It's all about integrating those aspects of ourselves.
Yeah. And it's a constant, I mean, it's never a perfect equilibrium. I mean, you're swaying one way to the other.
We're doing the best that we can.
The pendulum keeps going and you're just trying to work with it. Yeah.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah.
And it really makes you consider, you know, the ways in which, where am I holding myself back?
Yeah.
And where am I allowing myself to be caged?
It choked me up because like the image, she's a great writer. I mean, the imagery she puts, like she puts you right in, you're right in there. Mm-hmm. And when she's talking about like the cheetahs, like scanning the horizon.
Yeah.
And that this wild like eye comes out, like she's remembering something.
Yeah.
Like she's remembering a past that she never had, but it's just part of her.
It's instinctive.
Instinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's in there. And like, but you just keep pushing it down. Like, nope.
This is good enough. I'm just going to keep chasing the pink bunny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I think not funny, but I think like when I used to be into like watching war movies and I remember watching one that kind of described the reason why, you know, they put like 17 and 18-year-old men, you know, on the front lines is because they don't have any fear. They don't know what's coming. You know, you don't put 30-year-old men on the front lines because they're not going. They know what's coming. You know, so it's sort of like when you're young,
have the perspective, that life experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why I can't date men younger than myself. I'm like, dude.
Right. That's wild. Wild in a negative context. Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings me back to like all these like bro movies, like Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's a great one. I haven't seen that in forever.
And it's just that Morgan Freeman line. He's talking about Tim Robbins' character, Andy Dufresne. Well, he's like narrating and he's saying, he's like, some birds' feathers are just too bright. Like they have to fly.
Huh.
Like they're so bright, like they can't be contained. They can't be caged. I thought that was like a kind of beautiful like imagery of kind of the human spirit, the kind of what you want to, like when you feel like this cow just standing in the rain and just like that Eeyore character, just, I guess this is just
as good
what
as
it
it's
is.
gonna get.
Yeah.
So to bring my ex-husband into today's conversation.
Yes.
So I was at my sister and brother-in-law's wedding, and I texted my ex-husband, and it was beautiful. They'd rented this gorgeous house, and so I texted my ex a picture of the house, and I was like, "Hey, how are you? What are you doing?" And he writes back, "Wasting my life."
Whoa, the perfect Eeyore line, right? Like,
all right, I don't know what to say to that.
As Glennon Doyle says in her book, "Take your meds, will ya?" Like, and continue to take them.
I wish his second wife well.
The moral of this whole story to me, like what I got out of it was like, you choose to suffer, right?
It's a choice.
It's a decision.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, pain is not a choice. Suffering is a choice. So there's pains, there's the world's coming at you, right? And so things are going to hurt you.
Yeah.
But it's your choice to continue to suffer.
And as to how long you choose to continue to suffer, like how long. Grief and trauma are coming for all of us. The details look different, but it's just a matter of how we choose to navigate through and then beyond them.
Yeah. I heard it put a cool way too, that like grief, like all the heavy emotions of life, you can't understand them until they're happening to you. Like they're the biggest when they're happening to you. And that's the only time they are big. And so that's when we talk about like, you can't have this competition, because somebody had, their parent die,
right,
is not the same as
losing a child,
any other different losing a child, right, or an assault. Like there's
no ranking scale. Like,
yeah, there's no ranking scale.
We're all traumatized. We're all traumatized by life.
Yeah.
All of us. Every human.
And the worst traumas are the ones that you're going through, right? It's like, it's a personal thing. It's a subjective experience. It's not.
Right.
So this psychologist, this guy I was talking to you about, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's protege, I forgot his name, but it was on the Brene Brown podcast. He's talking about grief, and he's talking about how he had his son died at 21. He didn't go into how or why, but he said he was on the road. He was at some conference. He gets a phone call. His son died.
Wow.
And the grief that he went through with that. And he'd been a psychiatrist for 30 years. And what he said was, which struck me, he said that he wanted to write a letter to every one of his patients over the last 30 years, just saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know."
Huh.
So it was like, whoa, like he had that moment of
that level of understanding. Like, wow, this just is awful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Like,
I didn't understand.
How could you? How could you know?
You can't. I mean, and you can't fully walk in somebody else's shoes. As much as you can be empathetic, and I'm an empath myself, I can't walk anybody else's path for them.
Yeah.
We've each got to walk our own path. And like we've talked about, like until you divorce, you don't understand what that process is like until you go through it, whatever it looks like for you.
So I wonder, is it possible to have like a deep level of empathy if you haven't experienced a lot of, things in your life? I think it's almost impossible. I mean, at 20,
there's a lot of very unempathetic people in the world.
Yeah. Once you go through like all these like different crucibles of your life, you're like, oh, I get it. I get, all right, I get it. And you're kind of like, and then when you see somebody else going through it, you're like, yep, I remember. I remember. Maybe it's not the same, but I remember like what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about like the ability to hold space for other people.
Yeah.
Like people just tell me shit everywhere I go. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, let me just therapist everyone. Like one of the most common things people say about me, they're like, it's just so easy to be around you. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Well, like, who's going to therapist me? Like, I'm holding space for everybody else in the world. I'm like, hold on. But there are people, like, you're one of the people that hold space for me really well. And there's a few others in my life, too.
Yeah.
The people I'll call once I pick myself up from crying on the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
But not everyone does that holding space naturally because people want to rush in and fix things. It's like, just witness.
I think they're so self-involved. They're in their own head.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a question of focus, right? I mean, holding space to me is just being focused,
present,
out of your own head and present in the moment with the other person.
Imagine that.
Where you could engage. Yeah.
Put down the phone. Like, walk away from it.
Yeah. Or even like the little glances at the phone. Like I always think like the Dalai Lama, they say like people that meet him are amazed at the kind of concentration and focus he has on the moments. Like when he's talking to someone, he's really talking to that person. He's not distracted by all these other things. It's just everything he's doing, every moment of his life seems to be very focused in that moment. And it's very rare. Like it's very rare to find a person like that. Or even a person that can do that most of the time or have it.
I don't always get it right. Sometimes I screw it up, but
I don't either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just not in the right place.
Or you're sleep deprived or right.
Hungover. Oh my God.
We won't discuss what hours of the night I was up last night. 3 a.m. and I are intimately acquainted lately.
3 a.m.
It's been a year, 2020. It
really has. Yeah.
Been a long year. It's only April.
Yeah, it's only April.
Like, could I have my birthday month back?
Oh, mine was March. Yeah.
Yeah.
March started off okay. It went to shit real quick.
Oh my God. I was crying when I posted that meme about 2020 being canceled. Like, oh God. Could we really just start with 2021 on Monday? Like, let's all just agree.
Do over. Let's just
2020.
Please, do over.
Woo.
Yeah. Time out, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Well, the earth has been fed up and we've all been sent to our rooms to think about what we have done and how we have treated the planet.
That's interesting. We need to be quiet with ourselves. Yeah.
Even the introverts, like my brother-in-law is like, I'm good. No people. I'm like, I am losing my mind right now. Like, please, someone talk to me.
I guess I didn't realize how isolated my life really is. Like, so, because not much has changed for me, but just that extra level of like, now I can't even walk near anybody. Like, and
the defiant part of me is like, fuck you. Like, you can't tell me what to do. Like,
yes,
all these restrictions. I don't deal well with being treated like a child. Clearly, as last March demonstrated, like when I had people around me, like, no, you're not allowed to be alone. Now the opposite's true. I'm like, I just want to be with people.
I know. Oh man.
Oh, the irony. I'm like, ugh.
Isn't it interesting? So like, that's why they say like, you know, solitary confinement is like such
it's
torture
the worst
for
form
most
of
people.
torture.
But on the flip side, for somebody that's like a seasoned meditator, like it's joy. Like it's
I
joyful.
like being alone. I love living alone. Like I was actually having a conversation with another divorced friend. I'm like, isn't right now making you really seriously consider whether you could ever live with somebody else? And they were like, yeah, because I don't know how people with kids are doing this. I don't know how people who are unhappily married are doing this. Like,
yeah. Divorce rates skyrocket.
Thanks, 2020.
Like I was literally thinking about getting my volleyball and just painting a face on it, like Wilson and freaking Castaway, and just talking to it in the corner. I'm like, I got nobody to talk to. Well,
I have the cat, so that awful recently. The other day I asked one of the cats, I was like, could you love me from across the room? Like, I've really had enough. I'm like walking outside to just get away from them. Like,
too much together.
Like, I was walking out the door to go to the grocery store and I look at the one cat, George, and it's like, Mom needs a break. I'll be back later. I'll see you in a little bit. Like,
yeah, I find myself going to the grocery store a lot.
Yes.
Like I'm there almost every day.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just got to get out, just walk the aisles, like something.
Go to Walmart. Like,
yeah, just walk around, see people.
Let me be around people. Oh my God.
Yeah, we don't have to talk. Everybody's got their masks on now too.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen this. I went to Whole Foods, like 50% of the people had masks. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even have words. Like,
anyway,
I told somebody, I'm like, this is why I don't write fiction, because I'm a storyteller. I couldn't make this shit up. Like, what's happening in the world right now? I'm like,
I mean, just like 2 months ago. Imagine like even like thinking this would happen 2 months ago. You know, like it was not even on the radar. Like,
I had so many plans. Talk about grief. I'm like, I'm grieving all the plans that I had for this month that, got canceled. I'm like, well, that's not happening anymore.
That's interesting. So yeah, it is kind of like a group, kind of like a
collective trauma,
collective
and grief right
community
now.
Grieving. Yeah,
that when you're empathic and sensitive, like I can feel it, and I have
feel
to
it too.
Be careful with myself because it could overwhelm me. Like
me
I
too.
Can feel it, and it's a lot. It's just a lot.
And it's not. And when it's even like I don't know anybody that's sick. Like I don't have anybody close to me that's like sick. It's just this feeling, like you said. It's like this sense of like, loss. But I'm like, but wait, I'm seeing it on TV. Like, what's really going on here? And
allowing ourselves to just feel, like allowing myself to feel angry that my fucking birthday month got canceled. I'm like, I was really looking forward to this one. Like, because last year's birthday got canceled too. And I'm like, wait just a minute. Like, this is so wrong on so many levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel angry about that and upset.
And I think there's a lot of other people feeling the same way, you know? So it's like we're all feeling very similar kind of emotions. But then it kind of like it goes back to the story of the cheetah. It's like everybody feels like somewhat caged at this point. Like literally,
God,
like, we're like all like scratching at the walls trying to get like, what the hell? Like
can I just, go to Harris Theater?
And you just keep getting like new news reports like, well, another month. Got to stay another month. What? Another month? What happened to 2 weeks? Now it's another.
We're all caged cheetahs right now, clawing at the bars of our confines.
Yeah. Well, let's give Glennon another plug. So Glennon Doyle.
Yes.
Her book is called Untamed. And this was our kind of take on just our prologue called Cheetah, which struck a chord.
Mm-hmm.
Did you send me just the title of the book, and did you send me something about the cheetah?
No, I didn't mention.
No, you sent me the podcasts with Brene Brown.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one.
I listened to that. Because anything Brene Brown does in the world, just everyone should be consuming that. Like, I had already listened to Brene's podcast, one of the episodes, and then a friend texted me like, "Did you see this?" I'm like, how has she not been doing this like all along? Yeah. But so the conversation between Brene and Glennon. So there was one point in their conversation where Glennon said that there is no one-way liberation. When we free ourselves, we automatically extend permission for other people to free themselves and liberate themselves. When we uncage ourselves, it's not one way. It's always reciprocal. Which I love that.
That's funny you said, because I thought from what I can remember, it was sort of like the idea that to go like to make the one choice, you have to destroy something else. Like you have to like destroy your past life to have a new life. Like you can't
kill off your old self. Do you know how many old selves in There's the married version. There's the good girl. Oh yeah. The list goes on and on. How many identities I have killed. The fact that I'm willing to show up and have conversations without much of a framework is like my old self would be horrified.
Yeah.
This is what 40 looks like.
40. This is what 40 looks like. Yeah.
Uncaged, untamed.
Well, Diane, all right. It was a good one. And again, this was Cheetah. And so this was episode 20. I can't believe we've been through 20 episodes already. We're going to get back to the blog.
Time flies when you're having fun and you're in social quarantine.
Yeah, we'll probably pump out another few during this quarantine. Mm-hmm. So we'll get back on track next week. Maybe we'll get back to nothing to lose and the danger of success. We'll see. Whatever. We'll do whatever we want.
We're writing our own rules.
Yeah. Please come follow us, faconfessions.com. Like, subscribe, share, review.
Follow.
Yeah. I'm glad we pulled that audible today. We needed to do that.
Yep. Therapeutic.
All right.
All right, Al. Great conversation.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.